All right, can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up maybe. Yes, can you? Yeah, cool.
We're good.
All right. So hello everyone, I am Christine DeLong. I am an admissions counselor at Drexel University. I also just recently graduated from Drexel last spring, so in 2019. So I'm pretty fresh out of school, so I'm happy to answer all of your questions from the student perspective, like was mentioned. To get started, I do want to tell you a little bit how this is going to go. I have about a 20 to 25-minute presentation, and then I am happy to jump into any questions that you all have. So, of course, today we are talking about Drexel University. Drexel, as you may know, is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we are known for being a comprehensive research university, as well as a leader in experiential learning through our co-op program. If you don't know what co-op is quite yet, don't worry about that. We're going to talk about it a lot later on. But for now, you can think of it kind of like an internship. So let's talk about who Drexel is as a whole. So at Drexel, we have about 15,000 total undergraduate students. This is a pretty big number for some people, although at Drexel, we like to consider ourselves more of a medium-sized school. And that is because only about 2/3 of our students are on campus at a time. The other portion are out on co-op. Even though we do have a pretty large number of students, we're still able to keep our student to faculty ratio at about 11:1. So you will get to ultimately know your teachers and your professors, but that means they'll also know who you are. So you have to come to class. And then in addition to that, our median class size is about 19 students. So you'll also be able to get to meet some of your classmates as well. And students at Drexel are coming from all over the world. In fact, they're coming from about 46 states right now and 127 different countries. And then the students at Drexel are, of course, all split out into our 80 undergraduate majors. So that's a lot of different majors for you to choose from. All of our majors are split up into all of these different colleges at Drexel, anything ranging from our College of Engineering to our Westphal College of Media, Arts and Design, and anywhere in between. We have a few programs that I do want to touch on that are a little unique, but if you have any questions, if we have specific majors later on, let me know and I'll let you know. So one unique program that I want to talk about is something for students who don't know what they want to do when they come to college. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. And you can apply to our first year exploratory studies program. This is within our Goodwin College of Professional Studies. This allows you to choose either a STEM track or more of a humanities track. And in that first year, you get to pick 3 different majors that you're interested in studying. Throughout that first year, you get to explore all of them. And then at the end of that year, you get to pick your major. So it is a way to test drive what you want to study at Drexel. And then another unique program that we have is for the completely opposite type of student. This is for students who know exactly what they want to do, and so exactly that maybe we don't have a specific major that is about that specific thing. So that program that you would be studying is potentially our custom design major, and that is within our Pannoni Honors College. This is a program where you will have additional advisors that will be able to create a custom plan of study for you. I know this is sometimes very difficult to wrap your head around, so I do have 2 examples of 2 different types of students that went the custom design route. The first is a student who really wanted to study neuroscience, but at Drexel, neuroscience is only a minor. It's not yet a major. So they came to their advisor and they applied into the custom design program from the get-go. And they were able to create a proposal, get accepted into Drexel, and then they started as a neuroscience student. Another student is someone who actually applied to our fashion design program at Drexel. And during her time at Drexel, she realized that she was interested in fashion design, but she was more specifically interested in the sustainability of fashion. So she was able to go to our Pannoni Honors College and talk to some of those advisors so that they could create that custom plan of study to move her from a fashion design student to someone who's more focused on sustainability of fashion. So those are two quick examples of that. Now, for some students who kind of know what they want to do, but not totally, maybe you know that you want to be an engineering major, but you have no idea if mechanical engineering or chemical engineering is the right fit. Same for business. Maybe you don't know if marketing or accounting is a right fit. We do have a few programs within some of our colleges that are undeclared. So we have an undeclared business option, undeclared engineering, and that will get you kind of pointed in the right direction, but it'll allow you to explore that area a little bit more before declaring a major. In addition to all of these different programs, we do also offer over 20 accelerated and combined degree programs. Now, what this means is these are programs that allow you to get a master's degree in 5 years in addition to your bachelor's, or our BA BSMD program, which is our early assurance program into our medical school, which is a total of 8 years. Some of these programs you're able to choose throughout the application process once you select the major that you're interested in studying, but that's something that comes a little bit later. If anyone is interested in any of those, my contact information is at the end, and I can point you in the right direction to see which accelerated degree options are available to you. So now the fun stuff. What does the classroom actually look like? Now, I mentioned that we're really hands-on in the way Drexel's academics work, but this picture right here, I think, really shows us what the classroom can look like. So this is our fashion show that our Westfall College of Media Arts and Design students host every year at Urban Outfitters headquarters right here in Philadelphia. So this is a really great opportunity for all of our students, not only our Westfall College of Media Arts and Design students who are running the event, but every student at Drexel can attend this event as well. But before the event even happens, our fashion design students are working with real models. The design and merchandising students are running the entire event. Music industry students are working the music. And there's a lot of different aspects of this event that is completely student run. So this is one really great opportunity that we like to shine the light on of what the classroom will look like. And we're really able to do this hands-on learning thing through our unique curriculum. So our curriculum combines not only the world-class academics, but some real world experience as well. And we do this in a few different ways. The first, of course, is through the majority of our faculty and staff who are experts in their field. So they're going to be coming to the classroom, teaching you out of the textbook, of course, but they're also going to be able to bring their own real world experience to the classroom as well. Because as we know, the textbook can't change as much as the real world does. So our professors and faculty are really preparing you for the real world and the constant changes that are happening. In addition to this, another way we do this is through our co-op program. So every student will have an internship that we call a co-op, and they'll be in classes part of the time. They'll also be working full time. So you'll be bringing your own real world experiences to the classroom as well. So these classroom settings can really be discussion based. And now there are always things that you're looking to do at colleges that might not pertain to your major. And that is what we want to talk about right now. We want to talk about how you can learn beyond your major and beyond the books. So a few ways are different ways to get involved on campus. The first is through our close school of entrepreneurship. So I know a lot of people across a lot of different majors are interested in entrepreneurship. And at Drexel, we have what's called our Biata Institute, which is basically an incubator for all startups on campus. Any student can walk into the Biata Institute and ask to get involved, and they'll be able to hop on any of the projects that are happening at that time. So that's one way to get involved that doesn't pertain to your major and will make you a little bit more well-rounded. Another is, I know a lot of students are interested in performing arts, whether you were in chorus in high school or did some type of drama production. Any student at Drexel University can get involved in performing arts regardless of their major. And some of these do come with some scholarships as well that you can apply to. And then another one that I quickly want to mention is one that I specifically was looking for and was one of the main reasons why I chose Drexel, and that is the study abroad opportunities. So there are 3 different levels of study abroad at Drexel. There's what's called an intensive course abroad. This is a class that you will take on campus for an entire quarter. Drexel is on a quarter system. I'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. But you're going to be taking a class on campus for the entire quarter. And then after that quarter, you're going to have about a week of a break before your next quarter starts. And during that time, you're going to go abroad to a place that had to do with the class you were taking. I know that's a little confusing. So I actually have a personal example that I will share with you. So when I was a student at Drexel, I was a marketing student, like I mentioned, and I had to take a marketing consulting class. And I chose to do the international consulting class where we got to work with a company that was located in London and Switzerland. They made scarves and we were coming up with a marketing plan for them. So throughout the whole course, we created a marketing plan. At the end of that course, we then traveled to London and Switzerland to present our business plan, our marketing plan to the CEO of the company. And this is a really great resume booster, but it didn't require me to leave the classroom completely or leave the country for a long period of time. And then one stage up from our intensive courses abroad is a more traditional study abroad experience. This is about 3 to 4 months in a different country. It's an entire quarter, and it's a time where you're going to be a full-time student at a university. So during my time at Drexel, I did one of these as well. I decided before I even got accepted to Drexel or to any college for that matter, that I wanted to go to Australia. So for me, I was looking for a school that had that opportunity for me, and that's what I ended up doing. So I went to Australia for about 4 months to the University of New South Wales, which is a university right on the beach, and it was an amazing experience and something I would definitely recommend for all students looking at any university to definitely tap into those study abroad opportunities. And then one step up from those traditional study abroads is what's called an international co-op. This is a 6-month opportunity where you are going to be working full-time at a company in another country. So these are all different ways that you can get involved on campus and really expand your resume while you're studying your major. All right, so I mentioned a lot about co-op. So let's dive into what exactly that is. So I mentioned it's kind of like an internship, but not really. And I'm going to tell you why it's not like an internship. Internships a lot of the times are not paid. Co-ops, on the other hand, about the majority of the time, over 50%, these are paid positions, and our average salary is about $18,000 for our students. In addition to that, a lot of the times internships are copying papers, getting coffee for your boss. Co-ops are not like that. You're going to be working an entry-level position and really doing what the job description says you're going to be doing. In addition to all of that, a co-op is about 6 months long, which is about double the time of an internship. And I know this can be a little scary that it's 6 months, you haven't even completed your degree yet, but don't worry, you have the resources available to help you throughout the entire process. We have what's called our Steinbright Career Development Center. Before you're even beginning to look at co-ops or think about co-op, you're going to take a class called Co-op 101. In this class, you're going to learn how to write a resume, a cover letter, how to act in an interview, how to shake someone's hand properly, all the things you're going to need to be successful in the job market. In addition to that, you're also going to have a co-op advisor. So you're going to have an academic advisor who will help you schedule all your classes, but you're also going to have this person that you're going to be able to go to for all of your co-op questions. And through this center, we also offer a lot of different workshops for working on your resume and getting involved. We also have some job fairs on campus that you're able to attend that are really helpful, not only during your time at Drexel, but moving into the real world and getting a job. This is a center that is open to all Drexel alumni. So 20 years down the line, when you need help with your resume, this is where you can go for that help. Now, these are some different things that our students are doing on their co-op. They're doing really amazing things. We have students at SpaceX, at Google, all these cool places. But I do want to tell you a little bit about my personal experience. So at Drexel, we have both a 4-year co-op option that has 1 6-month co-op fit in there. We also have a 5-year option that has 3 co-ops. When I was a student, I was a 5-year, 3 co-op student. And I knew what I wanted to do, or what I thought I wanted to do before I got to Drexel. I was hoping that I would work at the same company for all 3 co-ops. I would be able to try different departments, and then upon graduation, I would get a job. It would be smooth sailing. But that's not totally how it played out for me. And I think this is actually the most case for a lot of our students at Drexel. So for my first co-op, I wanted to have a marketing position at a Fortune 500 company. And that is when I started a position at Comcast at their headquarters in Philadelphia doing events marketing. During my time there, I learned so much, but it wasn't all good things. I learned that I didn't really like the corporate environment, and maybe I didn't want to do that, or I didn't want to do what I thought I wanted to do, which was work at the same company for all 3 and then get a job from them. That just blew up my entire plan. So I came back to campus really confused, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I met with my co-op advisor. We discussed what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I wanted to do next. And we decided, hey, I have an entrepreneurship major. Maybe I should do something more entrepreneurial. And I was really interested in the food industry. So I was looking around for different positions for my second co-op. And I realized that food trucks in Philadelphia are huge, and those are startups in the food industry. So I started searching for a job at a food truck, and I came across a bagel food truck that was owned by a recent UPenn graduate. And he was going to be opening his first brick and mortar store only a few blocks away from Drexel's campus. So I thought it was a perfect fit, and I discussed the job description with him, and we created a co-op for me. And I ended up working there for my second co-op. I really learned behind the scenes of what co-op was and what the company stood for. And this experience was completely different from my first experience. But I wasn't really able to dive in and really get my hands dirty. So I actually decided for my third co-op to come back to the same company. And this is where I really was able to dive in. I became in control of all the marketing responsibilities. I redesigned their entire website, which is something I had never done before. I had to teach myself how to do that. I became a manager. I owned my own pop-up location right by 30th Street, Philadelphia, 30th Street station in Philadelphia, which if you know anything about Philly, it's one of our main transportation hubs of the city, and it's only about a 5-minute walk from campus. So I was doing a lot in this position, but what I realized at the end of that is that the food industry is not where I wanted to work right after college, but I realized that I really liked customer service, and I really loved what Drexel taught me. All of my customers at the bagel shop were all Drexel students, and I realized I loved being around Drexel students, and I was able to learn so many different perspectives of the university. And that's kind of how I ended up in this admissions role. So for me, co-op was about figuring what I liked to do, but more importantly, what I didn't like to do. So that is just my little spiel of co-op. If you have any more questions about that, please feel free to let me know. But like I mentioned, I do want to discuss our different curriculum options. So we have this 4-year one co-op curriculum where you're on co-op in your 3rd year. And then we also have a 5-year option where you are on co-op your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year. So for the 4-year, you have 6 months of full-time work experience. The 5-year, you have about a year and a half of full-time work experience. One thing that's a little bit different about Drexel is that we are on a quarter system named after the seasons, fall, winter, spring, and summer. And our students do go to school all year round except for their summer in their 1st year. I know this can be really daunting for students, and I just want to let you know that you do have breaks in between every quarter. You're going to have a week to 2 weeks of a break. Depending on when your co-op falls, you will most likely have a traditional holiday break. And from personal experience, when I was home for my 1st summer, I was there for about 3 weeks and I was already ready to go back to see my friends. And honestly, my mom felt the same way. And once I came back to school in my 2nd year, she turned my bedroom into an office. So that's just my personal experience with it. It's not as scary as it might sound. And one thing I do want to mention about these 2 programs is that they do cost the same amount in terms of tuition. So you really are picking between getting out of school faster or having more work experience. So if anyone has any questions about that or anything like that, I'm happy to answer those at the end too. So in talking about some of the statistics about co-op, 96% of our students are either enrolled in graduate school or working full-time 6 months after graduation. It's a big statistic, it's great, but I think the more important statistic is that 92% of our students who are working full-time are satisfied with their positions. And I really do believe that this is because they got to figure out what they didn't like so that when they graduated, they had a better idea of where they wanted to be. All right, so enough about academics and co-op. Let's talk about the fun stuff that is student life. So at Drexel, we have over 350 different clubs and student organizations. We are Division I in our athletics. We have 9 men's and 9 women's teams. If anyone knows that, already we know Drexel is a little bit different, but one thing that makes it stand out a little bit more is that we do not have a football team. Basketball is our #1 sport. But if you're interested in comedy, we do have a comedy club called the football team. My only joke I got today. And then on campus, one thing that is so unique is that we do, even though we are in an urban setting, we do have a campus feel. We are in an area that's called University City, and we really do feel like it's a city within a city. And it's called University City because there are 3 different universities back to back. So there's about 27,000 total undergraduate students in this area. So you're always walking past students when you're walking down the street. There's so many good restaurant opportunities. And then you're so close to Center City, Philadelphia as well. It's about a 20 to 30 minute walk from campus, depending on where you're starting from. And there's so much to do in the city. You can also access it via the subway or the L, as we like to call it. It will take you there in about 8 minutes. And there is so much to do, whether you're a foodie, there's food festivals, whether you like music, there's music festivals. You can access our sports complex to see the Eagles or the Phillies. And then there's shopping, of course. We have the history with museums. There's so much to do. And I really encourage you, when you're able to travel to Philadelphia, I would definitely do so and not only visit our campus at Drexel, but venture into the city as well to see how close everything actually is. So now let's transition into talking a little bit about how you can become a dragon, about the application process. So at Drexel, our application process is very similar to a lot of other colleges and universities that you might be applying to. We're going to accept the common application and the coalition application. Whichever is easiest for you is fine with us. We look at them exactly the same. In addition to that, we are going to ask you to send any high school transcripts, or I know a lot of students are taking dual enrollment classes at a local community college. I think it's a good idea to also send those community college transcripts as well. We're going to require 2 letters of recommendation. We recommend that one come from a counselor and one come from a teacher that either knows you really well or is in the area that you're looking to study. So let's say you're looking to study biology, maybe go to a biology or science teacher for that next letter of recommendation. There are some programs at Drexel that will require some supplemental materials. For students applying to our Westfall College of Media Arts and Design, they will need to submit an additional essay as well as a possible portfolio. Students also applying to the BSMD program, the Early Assurance into Medical School, will also need to submit some supplemental materials as well. This year, we are doing something a little bit different. We are moving into optional standardized test scores. So on the common application or coalition application, you're going to check off if you will be sending scores in or not. And if at any time you need to change that, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to change that over for you. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about investing in a Drexel education. So at Drexel, we really believe that this is a partnership between the federal government, Drexel University, as well as our students and families. So what this means is that there's a few different steps to this process. Of course, a lot of you have probably heard of the FAFSA, which is money that you're going to get from the federal government, generally in the form of loans that you need to pay back. But in addition to that, Drexel allows you to fill out the CSS profile. This is something that is done through the College Board, and this looks a little bit more in depth at your finances. And the money that you are getting from the CSS profile is directly from Drexel University, and it is in the form of a grant. So that's money you don't have to pay back. The only catch here is that you have to submit that by the deadlines. So talking a little bit about those deadlines, we do have, of course, the November 1st deadline for our early decision and early action applicants. The only difference between these is that early decision is a binding contract, so you only want to be selecting that if you are not worried about your financial aid package and Drexel is your number one choice. If those are not the case, I definitely recommend applying early action. You're going to find out your decision at the same time, which is generally at the end of December. And for those students, your CSS profiles are then due November 15th. Our next application deadline is January 15th for our regular decision folks. We do look at these different application pools pretty similarly. This just gives you a little bit more time to maybe take standardized tests if you would like to. And then the CSS profile for those students is due on February 15th. And that is when the FAFSA is also due for everyone. And then on May 1st is when you decide what school you want to go to. Now, just quickly running through the transfer admission deadlines. If you are looking to later come to Drexel or it doesn't work out first time, don't worry, you can apply again after you complete 24 college credits. And we have 3 different deadlines: April 15th, November 15th, and February 15th. And those students are also able to fill out that CSS profile as well. So that kind of wraps up my spiel for today. This is some of the ways that you can contact us. I will be posting some links in the chat box right now to some of these different things, including our admissions representatives page where you can search for your admissions representative, as well as our paperclip and admissions blog as well. This is my contact information, but I'm also going to stop sharing real quickly and put that in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does look like we have some questions. First, about admissions, and does Drexel recalculate high school GPAs that are sent in applications?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do recalculate those high school GPAs. That's done in our operations department. And generally, we are doing that based off of a pretty standard scale that we have, so that everyone is looked at an equal playing field.
Awesome. Are the SAT subject tests optional as well?
Yes, they are optional. You can submit them. We do have an option if you only want to submit those scores. I do have a link on our website that I can send you if you're interested in that. Feel free to reach out to me. It basically, so you only have to submit your subject test. You don't have to submit anything else.
How hard is it to get into business or engineering? Are those direct admissions? What are the undergrad colleges and grad colleges? I don't really know what the last part means, but.
Yeah, so I would say we have a pretty competitive program, especially for the engineering department. It is our College of Engineering, pretty basic name for that. And then it's our LeBeau College of Business for undergrad, and they are both direct admissions.
I was explaining to one of my students today, who I think is on this presentation, about colleges within a college and how like there's the Westfall College in Drexel, and there's
Yeah,
majors within Westfall, and it's confusing. So
it's definitely confusing.
so hopefully you are all a little bit more educated on different colleges in a college, but I know Drexel has a lot, so that's good. Good choices. Do graduate students teach classes?
So sometimes I personally have never had a class specifically only taught by a graduate student. There has always been a professor and then maybe a teaching assistant who is a graduate student, and they may only teach one or two classes when the professor is out.
If I were to be in a 5-year master's program, could I also complete 3 co-ops in that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really depends. That's something you're going to want to discuss with your academic advisor if you are someone who can handle 20 credits a term so that you have the time to do those co-ops. You can work that out with your advisor, but it really depends on the program. I had a friend who did the BS/MS in engineering, and he was able to get his master's and do all 3 co-ops. But then there are some students who are only able to fit in 2 co-ops.
Do you track demonstrated interest?
We do not, but of course it's always good to attend our events just so you have the most up-to-date information.
Can you describe housing options?
Great question. So at Drexel, we have a variety of different housing. We have traditional style housing where you are sharing the common spaces and the bathrooms, but we also have suite styles that have about 4 to 6 people in a room, and then the bathroom, and there's a little kitchenette in there as well. And you are able to pick your own housing, pick your own roommate if you would like, but you can also go in random as well.
Now, do a lot of kids, this is just my question, do a lot of kids live off campus, like within Philadelphia?
Yeah, great question. So I believe it's only about 13% of students who are commuters. It's a little bit different this year, but on average, it's only 13%.
Okay. How much of the freshman class is still their early decision?
I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but it's a very, very small number. I would say we most of the time push students to do early action just because it's not binding. You find out the same decision at the same time. It just allows you some flexibility.
How hard is it to transfer internally into business or engineering?
Good question. Pretty easy. I would say we want you to switch as early as possible just because of co-op. But for business and engineering specifically, we do have a lot of students who like to take on multiple majors or multiple minors. So yes, of course you can transfer, but you can also add on top of your main major as well.
Can you get housing for just 1 quarter if you have a co-op the next quarter?
This is a great question. So for our housing, we have a 2-year residency requirement, which requires our students to live on campus. That does get a little interesting in the second year if you are going out on co-op, if you are a 5-year student. If you are in the Philadelphia area, you can be let out of your housing agreement, but we do have some affiliated housing options on campus as well. And these options allow students to sign a co-op lease, which is a 6-month lease, so that when you do go out on co-op, you're let off your lease, or you could sign a new one if you choose to work in Philadelphia.
Okay. I have some questions.
Great.
Who would you say co-op is great for, and who would you say co-op is maybe not so great for?
So co-op, I believe, is really good for students who maybe think they know exactly what they want to do, because a lot of the times they'll get out into the real world and that'll either confirm it for them or it will not, like it did for me. And then a student that I think would not be a great fit for it is, we do have some programs that don't allow students to do a traditional co-op. So these would be some of our arts majors who, in music, most of your internships that are available are during the summer. So those students are going to have a more traditional internship. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult for those types of students. But I think co-op is really a great fit for any student if they're able to push themselves, handle the fast-paced environment of Drexel, and then also work to build their resume.
Good. Are there tracks for computer science?
So computer science, new actually last year, there is an undeclared option. So within our College of Computing and Informatics, there are a bunch of different areas of computer science. There's data science, security, a lot of different ones that I don't know all off the top of my head. So there are tracks, but if you aren't sure, or if you are generally thinking computer science, that undeclared computer science option is really great because it really lets you figure out what area of computer science that you're interested in, because of course, as high school students, you might not know exactly what that broad term means.
How is the social life when students are on and off campus?
Yeah, so the great thing about Drexel is people are always on campus, so it's never empty like a traditional university. In the summer, there's always people there and there's always things going on. A lot of the times you'll find students like running from one place to another. Our students are hyper involved. Students will, most of the time, whether they're in class, in a club, going to the gym, at the library, there's always people moving at all times of the day. And I really liked living on campus, but everyone, like, there's not cliques on campus. Like, everyone gets along. You're going to meet people in your classes that maybe at a traditional university you wouldn't converse with as much. You will probably on our campus.
What is the percent of commuters at Drexel?
13%.
Oh, good. Okay. Again, with the student perspective, since you just graduated from there,
Yeah.
I guess, can you talk a little bit about what other schools you were applying to and why you ended up choosing Drexel?
Yeah, I actually have a great story for this. So I am actually a first generation college student. So going into this, I had no idea what I was doing. My mom did most of the research and she was like, okay, let's go to all these schools. I definitely recommend, if you've now touring colleges is a little different, but I recommend to going to one that is close by, because for me, on my first visit, I think it went in one ear out the other. You definitely need to figure out how college visits work. So go to as many as you can, get as much information as you can. But for me, I was looking at mostly close-ish universities. My furthest away school was Syracuse, which was my #1 school, or so I thought. And then I applied to Drexel, Wilkes University, which is in Wilkes-Barre, and the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And I figured out that IUP was a little too far for me. And Syracuse was what I thought I wanted. I visited when there was a snowstorm, which was perfect because that really gave me a feel of what that would be like in the winter. And during my search, I actually got the acceptance from Drexel, and I was like, you know what, Mom, like, I don't want to go here. Like, I don't want to be in a city. I want like a pretty, like, campus that's secluded. And I was like, let's just go to the Philly Zoo. Let's not even go to Accepted Students Day. And she was like, get out of the car, we're going. And I learned about co-op. I met with a few people on campus. And after walking around, it definitely felt right. It's definitely a feeling. And I got back in the car and I was like, I don't want to go to Syracuse. Like, this is where I want to be. So I would definitely say when you're looking and you're figuring out where you want to go, to really make sure you pay attention to how it feels, not necessarily the statistics, but you have to want to be there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great story. Is there Greek life, and what is the percent?
I'm not sure of the percentage right off the top of my head. It's, I think, like a little less than 25%. I can probably find that for anyone who's interested in that, but it's not something that takes over the entire campus. If you want to be involved in it, you can, but there's no force to do so.
Now, were you in Greek life when you were there?
I was not, but some of my friends were. And I still like went to hang out at the parties and stuff like that. But there was really no line. I feel like some schools, there's definitely a line between sororities and frat life and not. And I didn't necessarily feel that at Drexel.
Somebody asked about the layout, which is a good question, right? Since we can't
Yeah.
visit during this time. So is there a quad and green space, or is it all urban? Maybe if you want to explain a little bit more of like the look and feel of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty put together, even though it is an urban type feel. You're going to definitely feel where campus is. So in the northern part of campus is where all of the housing options are. So that's mostly where our freshmen live. There is a dining hall up there as well that has Chick-fil-A. As you move south onto campus, you get to the different fields. So there's our soccer field and the volleyball courts. Moving more south, there is the rec center, so where the gym is, where the basketball games are, the libraries right there, the dragon statue, and then all the way south is all the academic buildings. And there is a quad with some green space, and then to one side of campus is actually the University of Pennsylvania. We butt right up against them. So a lot of the times students we don't stay on our own campuses. It's something that you can walk across and go to some of their restaurants, or there's a CVS over there that I was always venturing to. So that is kind of how campus is laid out, if you can pay attention to that. There is a campus tour that's on our website. And let me see if I can try to find it right now. If not, shoot me an email and I can get you that link.
Thanks. That's good. Yeah, I think there's virtual tours. And if students, wanted to drive around, walk around, is the campus sort of kind of open-ish?
Yeah, so we're not open at all, and we actually recommend that students don't do that. We can't tell you not to, of course, because we are an urban campus, but we're hoping to welcome visitors by the end of the year. So if you can wait till that'd be great.
I did Drexel on a 10-degree day, so it was okay.
Oh, man.
So if you guys open in the winter for people, you can still see it. They bring you inside a lot. It was so cold, and honestly, it was probably -10, but I got through it.
Yeah, definitely with that wind chill.
Yes, yeah, it was one of the rare cold days that we had this past winter. So I don't see any more questions, but I have another. How would you describe, I guess, like a typical Drexel student, and then a typical Drexel weekend day, night out?
Okay. So I would say a typical Drexel student, this might not be something that any of my colleagues would say, but we're kind of nerdier folks. And I think that's okay. but we definitely have fun as well. Students really get involved on campus. Students are most of the time involved in way more things than you think you can handle on your plate. We're definitely multitaskers. But a weekend really depends on what week it is. So weeks 1 through 3 at Drexel there's a lot going on the weekends. People don't have a lot going on yet in their classes. But once you move on to weeks 4 through 7, those are all of our weeks of midterms, essentially. So that can be a little bit of studying. People normally study during the daytime, and then at night they'll go out. There's a lot of students under 21 will probably stay on campus, but all the students over 21 will definitely venture into the city for the night out.
Awesome. Sounds fun. I don't know if we have any other questions. Did you talk about scholarships at all? I might have missed it.
Great question. Yeah.
I know
So,
that my students and families ask about this because
mhm.
Drexel is generous and expensive school.
Yeah. So every student who applies to Drexel is automatically being reviewed for merit scholarships. So those are all those academic based on your GPA and all of that. But there are some other scholarship opportunities available. There is a website that we have that lists all the different scholarships, but I also recommend that students check out the phone app called Scholly, Scholly. This was created by a Drexel alumni, and it compiles a bunch of different private scholarships. So any of those scholarships that you receive, they can go to any university that you end up applying to, not just Drexel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Any last remarks on Drexel and final thoughts?
The only thing I'm going to mention is if you have questions about co-op, I know it's confusing, please reach out to me. I'm happy to jump on a call and talk about it more in depth. I know it can be very confusing, and I know a lot of students, during their entire time at Drexel, their parents still didn't figure out how it worked. So I know it's confusing, and I'm happy to explain any of that more in depth, but I wanted to thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. So,
Yeah, thank you. And good luck with the moving, unpacking if you haven't done that already. I like the exposed brick. It's adds touch. So thanks. And I hope to meet you in person soon in New Jersey. So
yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.